It's, I think, in the future a matter of judging what we need to do in the physical world and what we can do in the digital world, trying to get the benefits out of both worlds. And I think that's a big part of where we're going right now.
Partner Predictions podcast explores companies, people, and teams who push the boundaries of modern technology. Join us as we discover insights on how technology will shape our future. My name is Joonas Villanen. In this episode, we'll explore how Blue Meteorite delights their customers by offering both superior tools and a clear sense of direction. We are joined by Pekka Valkama, the CEO of Blue Meteorite, and Tytti Hallavo, the head of consulting business of Blue Meteorite, who both share the same passion for basketball and for better workday experiences. Let's hear what they have to say. What are some of the challenges, or should I say opportunities, that you work with right now?
If I just start quickly here, I'd say that what we do, as said, is build great digital workday experiences. And the problem is that it's not just something that happens. Development of digital work, that's something that really needs to be led by someone in the organizations. And I mean, for example, in the future, we need to do extra work in finding the best people to recruit, and they're going to expect the best flexible ways of working. And digital work is different. It's not tied to place and time. So the efficient work that is enabled by digital tools is crucial in winning the market against competitors and such. And every company is digital. And now, especially at this point when all of the companies globally, everywhere, have been forced to take the leap into the digital way of working, I think that it's a problem that many of those companies have been forced to do it without planning ahead. But then on the other hand, talking about opportunities, I see a huge opportunity in that these organizations are going to need help in getting their digital work in order. And I really look forward to helping as many organizations as possible.
I was about to say that Pekka covered it quite broadly, and I totally agree everything that has been said. And I would start with change management. So this is the challenge overall. Basically, regardless of the actual service or individual challenge that we're trying to tackle with the customer team, but it's about change management and leading people, because the tools and technologies by themselves won't make a difference. They have to be harnessed and they have to be well adopted, and it's not even enough that individuals adopt them. They have to adopt it on so many levels. So in each case you have to have the individual level, the team level, and the organizational level. And when those adoptions are made with clear design and also with a design governance, the true change can happen in a way that it's stable and enables those competitive edges to be built on the really smooth workday experience that those teams, individuals, and the whole organization is then experiencing.
Now, Tytti, this is continuation for what you just said, dealing with people. And when people have to deal with change, it's never easy or simple. How do you manage change?
Yeah, from our own experience, I have to say that we're on purpose sometimes doing it sort of wrong, or not wrong, but in a less designed way to see how it goes. So because we are still a small team, so for us, having a little bit of chaos is not so detrimental. So sometimes we take, for instance, new tools into use in a sort of laissez-faire way and see where it goes, because that's then a simulation of what would happen in a customer environment too, but in a broader scale and with huge trouble sometimes. But then, of course, we need to have governance in place eventually as well. But in the customer cases, it's, communication. Change starts with awareness. So we're always trying to, I'm sitting in a lot of steering groups with customers, even though I'm not implementing the solutions with the team so much myself, but we often discuss in those steerings that what have you already been communicating to your people broadly, and my suggestion would be to be really bold about that. You don't need to wait until you have exact dates or start to give insight and information about the change to happen in a really early phase, and be open about that. Not all the details are not known yet, but because the change, the technology level change can happen really quickly, no problem. We put the switch from off to on and it's there sometimes. But the individuals and the teams, they need time to adapt and to design their benefits and their best ways of doing things, and to really identify those benefits, because the benefits will then drive the adoption. Because when people see that the workday experience is better, their team can function in a more effective way and a more painless way, for sure the rollout will be easy. But then there's the culture, and that level changes, as everybody knows, in a very slow motion kind of way. So that needs to have more time. So to be open with communication, say that we're starting this journey now, and there will be change. We will be adopting new tools, and we will be service designing our workday experience to a more digital platform-based way, and we're learning we're building competencies, and we're learning how to really optimally take the exploit all the features and functionalities and capabilities that we already have. Actually, customers often, they already have those. They have invested, they have the licenses, for instance, to Office 365. They have those tools available, but not in use. So to give that insight early on, so people know and start, and there will be those individuals who are eager to go with the change, to start adapting, to start, can I be the pilot? Can we test? And those good experiences will then be the communicational material again to spread broader and to make the whole team and organization part of it. So the communications is really crucial. And then, of course, it's not enough. Then you have to know how. So building competencies when you start having those defined use cases where you want them to be taken into use, and then when the teams and individuals have the experiences, then be open to continuous development. The way they were originally thought they could be used is not the only truth, or not necessarily even the right way. So really embrace the dynamic nature of the ways of working, and because the cloud technologies also are in a fast changing mode all the time. So new things will be coming, and everything has to be reevaluated all the time. So communications, competencies, and then continuous development, I'd say, following Pekka's 3-bullet rule.
I have a question for Pekka now. You're a CEO and you're a leader that people look up to. Taking the first bullet, the communication, how do you see, how important is it for the leadership to paint a clear vision of the direction where we're going as a company?
Well, I definitely feel that communications is really important. It's really hard as well. It's hard, or it's even harder when you're dealing or operating in a situation where you have everybody working remotely, and perhaps in a lot of different countries, in different cultures. There's a lot of things that you need to take into consideration. And I really feel that the time spent in communicating things to people as clearly as possible, and then double checking that they've understood it, and allowing the possibility for them to talk freely, communicate freely with others, and really trying to build that sort of understanding when different competencies are talking to each other. There could be some absolutely new innovations that are formed based on that communication. So I would really take the time to make sure that everybody understands what we're doing. A part of understanding, though, at the moment, and I think in the future as well, as world is becoming more and more complex all the time, is understanding that there's going to be change. Change isn't bad. We just need to change to the right direction and sort of embrace the change. It's many times I would say that instead of sort of trying to hush down the effects of new things, it's better to ride the wave of change and ride it to the maximum and really be the leader and sort of thought leader and the one who's telling the direction where we should be going. But it really takes a lot of communications to make people understand and also get the feedback to, as a leader, also make modifications to your own plans. We operate in a company where there's a lot of experts, and those are really clever people. I definitely really want to hear and understand what they say and change our plans based on the feedback that we get if it's necessary.
We saw a little bit what one crisis can do. I think we went 5 years forward in within a few days. So I think we can expect that this sort of constant change is we have these sort of increasing cycles of hopefully not crises, but these big leaps. What is your kind of guesstimation, best vision? How do we work in the future?
Well, I've been talking about that the fact that every company at the moment already is not necessarily a software company, but a digital company. And there's plenty of examples of that, like the car manufacturer Ford has more software engineers than traditional engineers. Goldman Sachs, if I remember correctly, said already 5 years ago that they have more software developers than Facebook. And whatever you do, if you call your local plumber and ask him or her to come work on something, they're going to be running some sort of digital services to run their businesses in the back. So I think that that's just something that we should really embrace. It's been a huge crisis all over the world, and it's definitely a negative thing, but we should also try to get the positives out of it, because as said, the forced digital leap, I think it has opened eyes for many companies and organizations and even nations to understanding that, hey, these tools can really make it a lot easier. There's less need for traveling and a lot of things that can be done in a better way. It's, I think, in the future a matter of judging what we need to do in the physical world and what we can do in the digital world, trying to get the benefits out of both worlds. And I think that's a big part of where we're going right now.
And I'd like to elaborate on that a little bit. That I think it's in many ways a balance between agility and then governance. And sometimes you need to be able, in a situation like the recent crisis, there has been sort of push factors that have enforced that companies have had to do some changes quickly and then sort of correct the mistakes afterwards, so that the agility was pushed to the extreme. But then after that, and that's just fine because you had to cope. But then even in a situation like that, it's important to then, once the crisis phase has passed, to have a moment and look back and set some governance on the made changes, so that you can build an environment and ways of working that are stable and can be scaled out, etc. Sort of from the recent crisis situation, I'd say that the companies that were already well prepared but had trouble having the adoption really, rolled out, actually achieved a lot, because the push factor was so extensive that the adoption the people suddenly saw the benefits in a very, very concrete way. On the other hand, the companies that were not prepared were pushed to go a little bit without governance and now have to, look back. But then again, they already have the experiences. The governance can now be set based on experiences already. So it's sort of a really hard, agile way. I'd say that they can sort of adapt now based on experiences. But I guess many of the companies would have hoped that they had a little bit governance in beforehand as well. But yeah.
Maybe I could just add, as a sort of a concrete action, of course, is that what we're doing at the moment and been doing is building those tools to enable this. So communication, collaboration, innovation, whether it's in your organization or with your partners or customers outside your own organization. In the Valo product family, the Valo product suite, we are building tools that enable this. So I guess that's a pretty concrete action to make it happen.
Yeah, and from the consulting services point of view, because we are helping hundreds of customers to adopt and take them into use, the governance models are already, we have examples, scenarios where best practices that we can take to our customers' environments and of course adapt to their needs. But we don't have to start from zero anyway. So because it's to enable that agility and continuous development, you need to have those governance places in place as well. To build, but the thing is that the governance can be technical, and that's a whole different level. But then also the sort of playbook and the rules of how in our organization X we want teams to be used in a certain situation, for instance, because the true benefits in the company level only are become visible and are realized when there is a certain level of similarity. So there is, of course, no wrong or right way of doing things in the digital environment, but people need to work to some extent in unison to allow, for instance, findability of the information and accessibility, so that and there are certain best practices, of course, to implement. For instance, that if you want some material and documentation to be available to the whole organization, don't store it in the Office 365 groups, teams folders, because only the people that are in that teams can then see it. Store it somewhere in your intranet and then just have the teams as the user interface to that folder. Sort of simple rules, but a concrete example still. But then you need to have these playbooks and ways of working defined so that you find the certain level of unison, the common ways, and then the rest can be individual ways when it doesn't harm the organizational benefits to be really materialized from that.
What do you do to keep yourself up to date?
Well, for me, in these circles, it's enough to keep an eye and ear open to all of these wonderful colleagues. We have basically the work itself is providing so many new insights and innovations and co-innovations with the customers, and we have those communication platforms in place where everything is well, of course, respecting all the NDAs, etc. But we share. Sharing is caring is the culture. At our place, and that carries a long way, because there is so much investigation and research ongoing all the time, and as said, there are no strict lines in what's wrong or right, but there's just implementations and adaptations, and different situations present themselves. But I think it's amazing if you just look at our Yammer feed, how many things are on a daily basis are discovered all the time, and these are already experts to this field, and they discover new stuff all the time and share it. So for me, the internal channels are already an abundant channel of new sort of providing me with this eureka moments a lot. So it's amazing to see those teams at work. But then if I think about our consulting teams and technology experts, the providing sort of this joint learning in the forms of, we've had hackathons, for instance, to come up and innovate new things. But then just really the sharing culture, having whenever we can, we want people to work in pairs and sort of do things together. because we have a lot of conceptualized offering, and we have a lot of shared materials which already have a lot of value in such, but all of us, we have our individual strengths, and having people share those and do things together, allow them to learn from each other and their individual strength all the time. And so the teams and competence groups that work together, and then also have these virtual communities within the company, within Blue Meteor, right, to share stuff and to every now and then sit down and have a workshop by themselves to share and innovate further is very valuable.
If you surround yourself with 5 smart people, you'll be the 6th. So that's kind of like put in a nutshell of, yeah. How about you, Pekka? Oh, what's from your point of view? How do you develop yourself?
Extending what Tytti said into the sort of global partner network that we have, it's sort of an ongoing dialogue. Of course, Microsoft is a big part of that network, and when we talk about new technologies, it's sometimes pretty hard because it's something that there's not yet any available courses or anything like that. So we're really working on technologies that are just going to be reality in the future. So from that perspective, really having the network of people all around is really important. Also, maybe looking at business things, the network for Finnish Software and Business Association on things that we're running into that are similar to other companies. We have a lot of dialogue everywhere going on. Personally, for me, what I've been doing the last few years, I'm a big consumer of audiobooks. So I mean, I know that in some countries where they're not so used to that, it might even sound a little bit silly in that sense, that maybe that's something that what children do. But driving in the car a lot, I listen to books, a lot of them, and that's just something that really works for me. So a lot. I'm a big consumer of all sorts of books, but also from business perspective of technology leadership perspective and all sorts of ways. I listen to a lot of books. I nowadays listen to a lot more books than I read. That really works for me.
I was saying as a concrete action of self-development, I'm hoping that this will be part of some at least at some level of the routines of the future for me. I just yesterday, because our HR offered this opportunity to all of us, I downloaded the Headspace app, and for me this is a huge step of self-development that I should learn how to, and every once in a while, stop and clear the mind.
I think that's a good place to stop and learn continuously, but also allow to the brain to recuperate. It's kind of like a muscle. You have to train it hard, but it also needs the sleep and the rest to be able to build it. So on that note, thank you so much for joining this podcast, and I hope you the best. I will be looking after what you guys are achieving in the future. Thank you so much.
Thanks. It was
okay.
a pleasure.
Thanks a lot.